Chapter 5 Face to Face. Jenny stopped at the bottom of the steps. She held her breath and listened. She was not certain which cabin they were in. She hid in the shadows. From the other side of one door came the sound of loud voices. "So where is the treasure, my lovely?" demanded Captain Skull, the tip of his sword a few centimeters from Snakehair's throat. She tossed back her red curls and almost spat at him. "Do you think I'd tell a sea-slug like you?" Captain Skull gave a snort of laughter and waved his sword in front of her face. "It won't take me long to find out." Jenny gripped the door latch and lifted it very carefully. She pushed the door open a crack. Captain Skull had his thin back to her. Jenny opened the door a little wider and squeezed silently into the cabin. Snakehair saw Jenny creep in but forced herself not to look. She held Captain Skull's eyes with her own, sneering at her enemy, while Jenny crept round the edge of the room. "Where's the map?" thundered Captain Skull. Snakehair grinned back at him. "You'll never know, you fat octopus." "By the devil, I'll find out. I'll make you tell me if it's the last thing I do." Captain Skull drew back his sword, and at that moment Jenny stepped forward. "It will be the last thing you do, Captain Skull," she said with dangerous calm. The pirate ship whirled round, and his look of utter astonishment thrilled Jenny. "Another one," he growled, "and a child at that. I'm going to skewer you both on my sword like kebabs." His sword darted forward and the blade clashed with Jenny's. She jumped to one side, but he pounced after her. The swords whirled and danced in the air. Chairs went flying as Captain Skull plunged across the room. Sparks flew from the crashing blades. Then, just as Captain Skull thought Jenny was helpless, she sprang forward, taking him completely by surprise. Her thin sword blade became a blur, dazzling the captain and forcing him back. Jenny lunged forward. Her blade passed clean through the pirate's sleeve and pinned him against the wall. His sword fell with a clatter. Snakehair snatched it up with a cry of triumph and waved it under Captain Skull's thin nose. "Fine work, Jenny! Look what we've caught! A gibbering jellyfish with no sting left. My thanks to you, young Jenny. Now, Slug, get up those stairs or you'll be walking the gangplank before you know it." They pushed Captain Skull ahead of them and up onto the quarterdeck. As soon as the others saw that their chief had been captured, they threw down their weapons and gave themselves up. The battle was over and won. Snakehair's crew took the prisoners down to the hold, while Snakehair ran a quick eye over her boat and made sure that the wounded were seen to. A small crew went aboard Captain Skull's ship, and it followed closely. Snakehair pushed a wave of red curls away from her eyes and glanced at Jenny. "I won't forget what you did," she said. "I'll make it up to you. One day I shall be there to help you." Jenny was silent, her eyes held by Snakehair's burning gaze. "There's a tiger in your heart, Jenny, a tiger like the one in mine. Never forget that. You take care now." But Jenny heard no more. Her ears were full of ringing and she opened her eyes. She was in bed, in her own room. The alarm was going again. "Whew," she murmured to herself and switched it off. It was early morning. During breakfast, Mrs. Lockhart put a poly bag packed with food on the table. "This will have to do today, Jenny. Do bring your lunchbox back. It was expensive and really we can't manage without it." Jenny was brought back sharply to the real world. She'd practically forgotten about the 3 playground pirates. She muttered, "Yeah," to her mother and set off for school. Vicky, Claire, and Sharon were waiting on the path to the playground. Vicky grinned and nudged the others as Jenny appeared. "Oh dear, no lunchbox! What can have happened to your lovely lunchbox? Surely you haven't lost it?" "Shame! Poor little Ketchup Head has lost her lunchbox and doesn't know where to find it," sang Sharon. "But what a dinky little polybag you've got! Let's see what you've brought us, then. It had better not be beef crisps again," she threatened. The three girls closed in round Jenny. Chapter 6. A Voice from the Past. Jenny's heart pounded against her ribs. Not again! Her eyes went from one girl to another. They smirked back at her. Then all at once a voice came into Jenny's head, and she thought she could see another face, slim, wind-tanned, and covered with flaming curls. "There's a tiger in your heart, Jenny," said the voice. "A tiger just like mine." Jenny looked back at the three girls, but this time the gang shifted their feet uneasily. Jenny pushed some stray red hair from her face. The curls were like coiling snakes beneath her fingers. She felt a fierce smile growling deep inside. She stepped forward closer to Vicky. "Just where is my lunchbox?" she demanded coldly. Vicky's astonishment was as thrilling to watch as Captain Skull's. This was something she had never expected. Vicky attempted a smile. "Oh dear, does poor little Ketchup Head want her lunchbox back?" Jenny took another step forward. She was almost on Vicky's toes. She held up her polybag. "I've got some lunch to put in my lunchbox," she said calmly. "Go and get it for me, now." Vicky was visibly stunned. She glanced at Sharon, who tried to move behind Jenny, but Jenny blocked her off. She no longer felt any fear, only a fiery power burning in her eyes, sparkling like sword blade upon sword blade. Jenny glared at Sharon. "Have you got a problem? Don't you know where it is?" A grin spread across Sharon's face. "Of course I know where it is. We all know where it is, don't we, Vicky?" Now Vicky started to smirk as well, while Claire chewed her lip again. "You'd better get it then," suggested Jenny. Vicky gave a low bow. "Come and fetch it, Your Excellency. It's no problem, is it, Sharon?" "No problem at all," sniggered her friend. Claire now looked as if she wished the ground would swallow her up. She could not bear to look her old friend in the eye. All four set off across the playground and didn't stop until they reached the school pond. Vicky pointed triumphantly to the little grassy island in the center. "There it is! Help yourself, Ketchup Head!" Jenny peered at the island. She could just see part of the lunchbox in the long grass. She turned back to the giggling girls. "Go on!" crowed Sharon. "Help yourself!" Jenny tried to stay calm. "How did it get there?" she asked coolly. "Threw it there, didn't we?" Vicky said with a grin. Jenny looked back at the island and nodded. "You'd better go and get it, then." "You what?" "You'd better go and get it," repeated Jenny. "You put it there, you'll have to go and get it back." Jenny's eyes burned into Vicky. The tiger was ready to pounce. "No way!" cried Vicky, backing off. Jenny's hand flashed out and grabbed Vicky's wrist. "Go and get it now," she insisted. "Take off your shoes and socks." Sharon sneered. "You can't make her. There are 3 of us, and—" "2," blurted Claire suddenly. Vicky and Sharon were flabbergasted. Claire's face was worried and her hands were trembling. But she went and stood beside her old friend. There are two of us and two of you. Chapter 7. The Secret of the Bed. Jenny looked at Claire and grinned. She turned to the others. "You'd better go and get my lunchbox then," she said for the third time. "Both of you." Vicky stood for a moment, glaring at Jenny. Then she gave in. She sat down heavily, pulling Sharon down with her. "Come on," she hissed. "They mean it." Jenny and Claire stood over them as they took off their shoes and socks. They slipped their pale feet into the cold pond water. "Ugh! It's revolting. It's all squelchy and mucky." "I want my lunchbox," insisted Jenny. The two girls held on to each other and waded to the island, clutching their skirts above the water and squeaking with disgust. At last they reached the box and came back, stirring up great clouds of black, slimy mud. They stood in the pond and handed up the lunchbox. "Thank you," Jenny said politely. She opened it up and put the poly bag inside. "By the way, don't call me Ketchup Head ever again. If you do, it will be the gangplank for you, and you know where you'll end up then." Jenny tossed back her flaming hair, took Claire by the arm, and walked off to the classroom. She knew that Sharon and Vicky would never bother her again. As for Claire, she had a lot to sort out with her old friend. The day went well and Jenny went home from school feeling happier than she had done for weeks. Strangely enough, when she climbed into the pirate bed that night, nothing happened. There was no gentle creak, no wind on her face or slap of waves. Jenny lay back on her pillows and smiled. She whispered to the empty room, "Thank you, Snake Hair." Jenny gently ran her hand along the top of the headboard, stroking the ancient wood. There was a tiny click. A small wooden panel sprang out, falling onto the pillow beside her. The secret cupboard! In an instant she was sitting up, staring into the little hidden hole in the wood. She put in one hand and her fingers touched something hard. Jenny drew it out carefully. It was a small book with a tattered cover. She stared at the title, Pirates of Yesteryear. Jenny leafed through the yellow pages. They fell open at a chapter headed Famous Pirates. Opposite this was a picture that almost made Jenny scream out loud. It showed a woman with flaming red hair coiling round her face. She stared out from the picture with burning black eyes. Jenny raced through the words beneath the picture until her eye was caught by a single name, Snake Hair. Hardly daring to breathe, she read on. One of the most successful pirates was Snake Hair, so called because of the mass of curls that writhed about her head. However, her real name was Jenny Lockhart, and she lived